Hello and welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast. I'm your host, Mario DeLeone. And today we're talking about mastering discipline without actually forcing it. It's going to be fun. Let's move forward from here. The first thing we want to do is let go of shame. Shame leads to avoidance, it leads to self criticism, not growth. Be kind to yourself. Have that level of compassion. Understand that discipline is about creating a life aligned with your values, not punishment. Now, what I want to share with you is some people might have a different meaning of discipline. We're going to talk about it. The introduction to discipline. Discipline means different things to different people. Discipline often feels elusive, even for the most driven individuals. But let's talk about how to cultivate it without force. What I want to share with you is again, discipline has different connotations to different people. For some people, the word discipline equals punishment. Why? Because when they were a kid, they might have been disciplined and they equate certain behaviors with punishment. So having a new diet, let's say, or a new exercise regimen, automatically there's an equation that says workout equals punishment. Eating a good healthy diet equals punishment. They make an equation. The brain equates that. We just have to reframe that today and understand that discipline relates more to consistency, ongoing, energetic consistency. I want to get that very clear. So if you're one of those people that have the word discipline ingrained in your head as a piece of punishment, then you'll avoid all discipline things. And one thing I say often on this show is mood and indulgence is the murderer and killer of discipline. When someone says, "Oh, you want to go work out? Let's go to the gym together. Come on, let's go work out." And they say, yeah, I'm not in the mood. I just want to sit on the couch and eat ice cream. I'm not in the mood." And they use the word mood. So mood is that discipline killer. Indulgence is the same similar concept that people will argue for indulgence, which we're going to discuss. And I'll tell you right now, the brain is a trickster. It likes to play games. It likes to be the rationalizer, rationalize things to make it come out right in your head so you can rationalize that behavior and do the shitty habit. That's what it's all about. Let's go forward from here. The Marshmallow Study Insight, this came from a book. You can read this book. It's a wonderful book. But the kids who distracted themselves from eating the marshmallows resisted the temptation better and succeeded later in life. That was the study. This shows that reducing decision-making stress helps build discipline. So what they really did, which was awesome, was delay those impulses. And that's the thing, is that if you're running a certain pattern in the brain, what we call a neural pathway in the brain, when you derail that pattern, you start to change your habits and you start to move towards discipline as a result. So when they're holding the marshmallow in front of themselves, there's a desire to want to eat it, but they usually are told in the experiment that, hey, if you delay this marshmallow, we'll give you two later. And they'll have the discipline to get the gratification of getting another one later. Where some of the kids, no fault of their own, they ate it too quickly because they operated off of impulse, a lack of self-control. And kids are indeed learning, but the whole point of this study was, teaching the delayed gratification versus the impulse. And that's the whole thing, is that, they're developing. People are growing, shaping, and changing, and kids are developing, and they can develop a delay and derail those impulses and create a new pathway in the brain. That's what that's all about. So let's go forward from here. You can read the book on this, the Marshmallow Study, or the Marshmallow Experiment, rather. Now, a good example of focusing on pain, pain is indeed powerful. And, pain is relative to discomfort. You can say discomfort is a small amount of pain, right? Now, imagine if you do something and you focus on the pain of it after you do it. So, for example, perhaps you are binge watching and like 4 hours went by. And if you just stop and you sit down and you focus on the close your eyes and focus on the pain of how much time that you've actually lost and how much time was actually wasted. You close your eyes and you really sit with that feeling of, you know what? This doesn't feel good. And you bask in that for a little bit. Now, you don't want to downward spiral into depression, but you do want to sit with that feeling without shame, without force. When you become aware of that sort of thing, it can be a motivator because you're tired of being that way. People can live on default. They can fall into their automatic, habitual, traditional patterns. And that can be troublesome when they want to be disciplined and develop some change in their life. So without shame or force, this awareness of sitting in that emotion, it helps you build reasons why you wish to move towards a new habit and why you want to get away from the old one. That's important. Let's go further. Moving forward with discipline, ask yourself, how can I gently and creatively move towards my goals without forcing some kind of crazy, rigid system too much, right? Now, I believe that goals are not as good as systems. That's my personal belief. It's better for you to have a system. And a system is really just that consistency. You have something in place and you have consistency. Habit trackers are incredibly powerful. Print them out, and actually post it on the wall. I myself am working on an app development. I'm developing an app currently on habit tracking, and it's quite wild, the amount of psychology I put into this mobile app for iOS. It's got some time, but neither here nor there. Let's move on. Embrace discipline as a supportive, natural process. Share your challenges and thoughts to foster growth with people. So what you want to understand is that discipline doesn't equal punishment. Discipline is that inner fortitude to have consistency. Think of it that way. And you want to embrace that. It's not punishment. It's for your good and your long-term development. Think of self-discipline as a form of self-care. I explained that to a friend of mine, that, he was having difficulty with his self-discipline, and he kept looking at discipline as punishment. And that's what happens is our brains relate that, just to go over that again. So focus on that pain, sit with that emotion. Instead of avoiding discomfort caused by the bad habits, lean into it and acknowledge it. Feeling the pain of not acting. Sit with that feeling of, I really wish I would have done something. Don't fall into depression and downward spiral. Just sit with it. Write it down. Maybe even journal 5 painful reasons about it, right? Because that can motivate natural change without actually falling into self-criticism. Just understand. In order for you to self-criticize, you would have to label yourself. I can't believe I did that. I'm garbage. How could I do that? And you start to label yourself. Then you go down that path. Avoid labeling. Understand that, right? Feeling the pain of not acting, like sluggishness from inactivity, it can motivate natural change without the self-criticism. So sit in it. Now, avoid decision fatigue, because what will happen is decision fatigue weakens discipline. When you're like, should I? Shouldn't I? I don't know. You know what? Forget it. And you just give up. You throw your arms up and you walk away from your diet. You throw your arms up, you walk away, because you meet resistance, you meet emotional resistance. Those red flags go up inside you. And what happens is you get tempted, you backslide. You got to remember, too big, too hard, too fast, too soon. Those things will all destroy a habit, okay? Because it creates emotional resistance. So decision fatigue weakens discipline. Remove the temptations to reduce the number of decisions, okay? If you're a smoker trying to quit smoking, get rid of all the ashtrays, get rid of all the lighters. You need to reduce those options. And some people will say, oh, well, that won't work for me. Like, I'll go out and buy a lighter. Well, then that means your brain will rationalize it to make it come out right in your head. So you could argue for the limitation to go buy that lighter. That's what that's about. There's more to it. That's what we call, when we start to lean into secondary gain, that's a completely different topic. But remove all those temptations, reduce the number of decisions in the process. For example, placing a video game controller out of sight makes it harder to play impulsively, allowing discipline to happen automatically. Finding a replacement. So that's another thing, is that habits are like a fork in the road, old habit, new habit. And this is the old pattern, new pattern. And you want to keep running down that new pattern all the time. And that'll help you rewire the old one. It's more like replacement is the means to destroy the old one, because you're running a new neural pathway in the brain. It's that simple. You have to derail the old one, run the new one. Derail, run. Derail, run. Think of a computer. You're writing a program that destroys the old program and runs a new one, right? It's kind of like creating a virus to destroy the old software and, of course, create a new software in its place. So every habit serves a purpose. Identify what your habit provides and find a healthier alternative. Things that there's healthy escapism and unhealthy escapism. Replace video games as a stress escape with active hobbies like pickleball, horseback riding, or things that will align with your goals, workouts, hitting the gym, doing other things. Let's go forward. If-then statements are priceless. These are absolutely priceless. If there's anything to take from my entire presentation, this is the one to actually take. Make sure you watch this all the way through, please. Okay, so like and subscribe and share it to people that need help. So if-then statements, you want to write them down or create them in your mind. So what it is, you're creating a backup plan to the primary plan, because we're human beings. We will backslide if we don't have a secondary plan. So if-then. So if I feel too tired to stick to my full routine, then I will engage in a smaller, manageable task to maintain consistency. If I feel under the weather, instead of doing a vigorous workout, I'll do a much lighter workout today. If I'm totally ill today, then I will double up my workout tomorrow and I will commit to that first thing in the morning. So when you use these in your head, it allows you to reprogram your mind. If I start to feel overwhelmed by a task, then I will pause and break it into smaller, actionable steps. If I'm tempted to skip a planned habit, then I'll replace it with a smaller activity that requires less effort but keeps me on track. So you can take a look at your habits and say, if this happens, then have this. Okay. Now you have to, that then, the part of the statement that's then, the habit has to continue. It could lessen in strength, but it's mandatory that it should continue. Don't rationalize it and kind of really reduce it so far down that it's minuscule and means nothing. If you're ill, I get it. Like, you have to be able to feel your body out if it's exercise and whatnot. But you get what I'm saying. Let's go from here. So the 3 ways to practice and cultivate discipline, there's actually 4, but three primary ways. Focus on that pain, sit with that emotion, avoid the decision fatigue. Feel free to move all those options out of mind, out of sight, find a replacement, and create those if-then statements. Now, the argument for indulgence and mood, this is where like your friends come in. So you're trying to get off alcohol, for example, and your friends are like, oh, come on, the whole peer pressure nonsense, right? The argument for indulgence. Aren't you in the mood? Didn't you have a bad day? Let's go have a drink together, right? That sort of thing. So there's an argument for indulgence. There's an argument, for mood. Okay. I'm not in the mood. I just want to sit on the couch. Let's go over these. So first of all, the first argument for indulgence and mood is instant gratification bias. That I should only be I should only experience gratification in the now, here today, not tomorrow. And that brings us over to another concept. Let's break it down. YOLO, you only live once. The friends will say, "Oh, YOLO, you only live once. Let's go ahead. Let's go out drinking. Forget about that. Forget about that. Didn't you have a bad day? You're not in a good mood. Let's go drink together." Right? So YOLO, that concept of YOLO, it encourages seeking immediate reward and overriding long-term goals. So if there's anything to derail your discipline that you're working on, that would be instant gratification bias. There's a bias or a leaning. So when friends are leaning towards instant gratification, that rubs off on you. And you've got to have that discipline to say, you know what? That's no longer part of my identity. No longer part of my identity. This is why two people that have an addiction will rely on each other. And one person's identity could change and wind up leaving that relationship as a result. Or both of them quit the habit. So keep that in mind. So instant gratification bias, avoid letting other people destroy with the YOLO concept, right? The fear of missing out, good old FOMO as we know it, right? It emphasizes that impulsive actions to avoid feeling left out. And you know what? This is another argument for indulgence and mood. And the argument that, oh, you have to be in the know. If you're not in the know, you're not special. God forbid. Like, God forbid you're left out, right? God forbid you actually have some self-esteem and sit this one out, right? And I'm not saying that in a sarcastic way. I'm saying that in a sense that you have to be able to understand that FOMO is a modern day weapon aimed right at your brainstem. So keep that in mind. Now, emotional reinforcement. Remember, we get emotional resistance when the habits are too fast, too hard, too soon. Emotional reinforcement is also the argument for indulgence and mood as well, is that it can prioritize actions that give you the quick emotional dopamine hit high, which weakens your self-control. So that's the thing. People want to argue, say, do it now. You only live once. Back to that FOMO and YOLO concept, right? And of course, the cognitive shortcut part of the brain, right? This is when your brain wants to shortcut things in life. So it simplifies decisions by ignoring the long-term consequences. That's where we said, oh, get rid of your ashtrays. And someone will say, oh, well, that doesn't matter. I'll just go out and buy more. Well, that is a cognitive shortcut. That simply says, let me just simplify the decision, go out and buy the ashtrays and ignore that I could have problems with my lungs down the road. Okay? That's it. And that's another thing too. People will literally argue for the cause of lung cancer actually existing or not. People will argue. But the bottom line, what I'm trying to say is this is not just for smoking. This is for several different habits. This could be overeating. Right? So there's a cause and an effect. You have to understand that. Now, the last one, which is the most interesting one of them all, is, of course, the social and cultural influence that are here. I'm just going to move this out of my way here for a second. There we go. Social and cultural influence. So the social trends, the trends of all your friends and what they're doing out there, that amplifies the YOLO. You only live once. You're in high school. You only live once, right? Making that delayed gratification less appealing, right? So, and that's the whole thing, is that YOLO, the concept and mentality of YOLO, could literally lead a person down the road of irresponsibility. Can totally do that. It's like, you get a bunch of friends. I'll never forget. I was in high school, and there was a group of friends that I had, and they would go out to the one bar that would serve them because that bar wanted to make money. So they kept serving people that were 18, and my friends went there, and I had a gut feeling that day, a very tough gut feeling to say, don't go. They were as, come on, man, you only live once. It's graduation. We're graduating in a month. Come on, let's go out and get plastered. And my gut sent off bells and whistles. I wasn't afraid of going. I was like almost going to go, but something in my gut instinct said this is a wrong way to go. And as it turned out, most of them got arrested that night, and the bar got fined and eventually shut down. So that was kind of the whole lesson in that story. Looking back on it, I was happy that I made the right decision, but I was also concerned for a lot of my friends of what happened for them. So that's pretty much it for today. I just wanted to say thank you for stopping by my channel. There's going to be more like this. Have a great day and see you on the next video.